There is a real misconception of what a leader looks like. What does a leader look like? What is the leader that everybody pictures? And what it typically is, right? You think of a leader as someone who stands up in front of the group, someone who is in charge of everything, who barks orders at people, and then they go execute. That's what we kind of think about a leader. In the military, there's a real misconception around that. And we get that a lot with, the people that push back on default aggressive when we're working with corporate America. And they think that what we're actually going to do is come in, they see that word default aggressive, they get a little concerned because they think someone like me or Jocko or JP or Jamie is going to come in and say, what you need to do is yell and scream at people and tell them to get their job done, get the job done no matter what, and push the standards high. And that's their idea of what the good leader should look like, particularly in the military. And obviously that doesn't work. It's not true. There are people in the military that try to lead like that. And generally they think that's what they should do, but it's not effective. There are people certainly in the civilian world and every industry that we worked with who try to lead like that as well. They think that's what they should do, is stand up in front of the room and just bark orders at people and tell people what to do. So what happens when you do that? What's the outcome? When you stand up in front of the room and bark orders at people and tell them what to do, the outcome is a team that's just sitting and waiting for the boss to tell them what to do next. That's what you've got, a totally centralized team that is sitting around just waiting to be told what to do next. So it's not effective. You got people that are just, okay, I took care of a task. What's the next order from the boss? Okay, the boss gave me an order. I took care of that. All right, what's the next order from the boss? Okay, the boss gave me an order from that. And this is, in the military, a lot of people think that, that's how it works. You just stand there and you wait for orders. And I try to explain this to leaders when they ask about it sometimes. In Task Unit Bruiser, you might think that like I'm a platoon commander, I get my orders from Jocko, I go out and execute. And that's the way it is. Or we get our orders from on high, where the senior leaders in charge of Iraq get their orders from the central command in charge of the entire Middle East and that part of the world, who get their orders from the Pentagon level. And it goes down the chain to us to go out and carry out those orders. Most of the time, it does not work like that. And I think in Task Unit Bruiser, in 2006, through almost 7 months that I was on the ground in Iraq, and I think we did over 150 combat missions combined between Charlie and Delta platoons. This was, we had a total of about three operations that came, and Jocko, you can correct me if I'm wrong there. I remember three distinct operations, two to us and then one to Delta platoon, that came to us from our higher headquarters. So out of 150 plus combat missions, three of them came from our leadership to say, hey guys, here's a mission, go conduct the mission. Most of the time it was us figuring out what we needed to do. Okay, the broader scope is we're trying to stabilize and secure the city. What can we do to support that effort? And then we come up with a plan. We push the plan up the chain of command to get approval for that plan. And that's how it works. So oftentimes when I hear business leaders saying, hey, someone needs to come down here and just tell us what's going on, explain the why to us, really give us the details on the mission. And, I say, well, how often do you think that happened to us when we were in Iraq? The senior leaders came and sat down with us and gave us that information. And the answer is never. They never did that. They never did that. We're the ones closest to the problem. And we could see that Ramadi was a horrible and violent place. And we could also see that the current strategy of just kind of, keeping the roads open and going out on patrols and getting in contacts, but kind of pulling back to bases and largely living on bases out on the outskirts of town was not effective. It wasn't effective. And a lot of special operations troops that were going out doing these nighttime raids and, capturing bad guys, that wasn't effective either. Enemy attacks were up. All the numbers that you could measure that on were up tremendously. So we had to look at ourselves instead of waiting for orders on high. We actually had to look at ourselves and say, okay, what can we do to solve this problem? And of course, the colonel in charge of the brigade combat team, 5,600 soldiers and Marines and some sailors and airmen that were attached to it as well. He came up with a plan. I mean, his staff, the leaders came up with a plan and actually presented that plan to their higher headquarters to get approval. And there was some pushback on that when they did that. But that's how it worked for us in Ramadi. It's this idea that you're sitting around waiting for orders is not, the most effective teams are not operating like that. The most effective teams are understanding the commander's intent, understanding the overall mission that we're trying to accomplish, figuring out what needs to be done, and then pushing up the chain of command to get permission to execute a plan in order to accomplish those greater strategic goals that they're striving toward.